Okay. Meeting has started. First item is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Does anyone here? Tom emailed them out a week and a half or so ago. Does anyone here either have any changes or want them read? If not,
I'll move to
a motion
accept
will be
as
in order.
written.
Okay. Scott moved to accept. Oh, and I'm sorry, I should have, before I even did that, I should have appointed Mark Houston, who is normally an alternate, to vote in Sal Garcia's place today. Sal cannot attend. So Scott moved, and we need a second. Mark seconded the motion to approve the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Any comments from anybody? Okay, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Minutes from last time are approved. Thank you, Tom. Those are good. So the next item on the agenda, it says review of list of open action items. Well, I have the list here. And I think we need to go through each of them because they are things that we identified over a month-long period. Most of which still need attention. So if you don't mind, that's, we're gonna go through that list. Item 1. Chat was to investigate potential and advisability of renting a roadside mower. Have you had a chance to work on that yet?
We have gotten a quote. I know Bob went and talked to places about getting a quote to do that. I don't think we're gonna be able to rent one very easily. Basically, I think it's gonna be like a lease deal.
I would say in process right now. You're not finished.
in
You're working
process.
it. It's in process. That's all we need to say, that you're working it, whatever, or it's complete or whatever.
Just
What's
so
that?
we want an update, that's all.
Yeah, I appreciate, no, and I don't mind that,
Yeah.
but it's fair to say it's in process,
Yes.
right? Next one is add the Hudson 6-ton trailer and the sweeper to the asset inventory list.
No, we still have to add that one.
Okay, so that's not done yet. Keep it, and you can use this list as your reminder if you want, whatever, but, okay. Third one, add police personal electronics and equipment package to the CIP planning list, but that'll depend on the outcome of
Well,
what.
we're still gonna add it to the CIP planning list.
All right.
So we can
But
figure
you
it out,
might
because we can.
not put any dollars in the first year.
Right, we might just say those dollars are gonna be zero the first year and we'll put them in the operation.
Got it.
But at
So-
least they're there, and
all
I'm
right.
supposed to have that official breakdown tonight.
So have you added that to the list then?
No, because
Not yet.
I haven't
Okay,
gotten the list.
Fine,
Yeah.
all right. Next, establish maintenance, oh, the list from Ryan, I
Yeah.
see.
He
I
said,
meant
"Welcome."
I meant your computer list, you
Well, no,
meant Ryan's
If it's
list.
his list, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
how he wants
Got
to
it,
write
got
or
it.
anything else, so.
The next one was establish maintenance contracts for building generators
That is in process.
in process. The next one was, actually, this was for, I have Begalio Spalding, which is,
Jordan's.
Oh,
Jordan, this is Jordan's action. Well, you might know about it, I don't know, it says, refine the CIP plan to purchase powerless stretchers individually instead of packaged with new ambulance purchases. Actually, we'll get to that
Yeah.
on the list, and I have a question or two about the numbers that are in there.
Okay.
So, we'll say that's in process right now, because I saw some numbers on the list. But I have reason to question a couple of things on it. The next one is clarify sources of ambulance funding. In other words, the EMS Enterprise Fund versus capital reserves. Have we made any progress on that? What do we know for sure about that?
We know that the town puts $180,000 into that fund a year, and then the fund all pays for all of their expenses, and we have a split within their fund there's a certain amount that goes
Right.
towards capital and a certain amount that's operations.
So if I understand that correctly, the 180,000 from the town should be the only financial liability for the town, meaning we should not also have to fund a capital reserves account.
No, it will be funded out of the 180,000.
That's what I would have thought, and that was the reason for my original question.
from the auditor, and he said if we put money into the ambulance capital reserve, it has to be as a warrant article from the voters.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true of every capital reserve account that we put money into. The voters have to approve it. The question I had was, would we even ask the voters to approve putting anything in there besides the 180?
Well, and then-
That we already
we'll have
fund.
to work out with the committee and figure out how we're breaking that out, because we haven't evaluated their numbers for next year to that level anyway.
When you say the committee, meaning
Budget
EMS
committee.
committee,
Well, no, budget committee and. select
budget
board.
committee. Oh, yeah, sure. But the 180K again of funding, whether it's
been
180,
Operating is, it's been operating
That
as the only
should-
fund.
that should support equipment as well as operations.
That's the way it's
Right.
been.
Yeah, and if we're gonna go that route, and I think we had talked about it last year about closing the ambulance capital reserve.
Right. We would do that if that's going to be the case going forward.
Right.
Then, right. Okay.
So wait a minute, are we talking about the enterprise fund then?
So what we just said, Tom, in summary is, it says clarify sources of ambulance funding. The answer is ambulances will be bought from the enterprise fund,
Okay,
not from CIP's capital reserves.
Right. But
Okay.
the capital, the CIP will still review their program.
Can still
and their
review,
process,
that'd be all right, that'd be all right. The question more is at the money level, where does the money go and come from and so on, yeah.
Right.
And would it be a tax appropriation to fund some additional monies to put into a separate, that's the
And
question.
that's the question.
Not whether we would review the plan or not.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. The next one is add actual and future estimated lease costs for the first 4 pieces of leased highway equipment to
That's
this.
the process.
That's in process. I was gonna say, I didn't see them in what you sent out this morning. So you're still working on that. All right. The next one is you and Bob, the fourth. We're to devise, should put, no. Devise a strategy to keep the master list of all the roads on the town website synchronized with the paved and gravel roads listed in your tool here.
And
So-
that will probably be an over the winter.
That'll come a little
process.
longer.
That's-
That-
we're
that'll
not-
be-
We're not even.
Let me put delay.
we've
We don't
talked
need
about
that
it.
now.
Yeah, we've talked about it, but we're not gonna be.
That's not
down
a
that.
high
Got it.
priority at the moment.
Agreed. We don't need that now.
Yeah.
Agreed. We don't need that this month. The next one, verify legitimate legal use of buildings capital reserve funds for major building maintenance as opposed to new construction. That's a similar question to police
Right.
cruiser. So
Yeah, that one I still have to know.
that's still open, okay.
is it in process or?
It's in process. I mean, I'm having conversations, but I haven't made a lot of progress in the last week. when-
My view, Tom, if
Yeah.
you don't mind, because I've maintained these lists so many times, is if someone is really taking some concrete actions, you call it in process. If they're talking about it, you say, no, that's still open. They haven't done anything yet. Is
Okay,
that
so-
right? Is
so
that
I mean,
fair?
So it's.
I'd
yeah,
call it
I
open.
I haven't talked to legal and I haven't reviewed the documents yet, so.
Right.
So. in
It's open.
Or open then?
It's open. It's an open item, yeah.
I need to learn your vocabulary.
Well, just a suggestion, we can, if he's, like the building generators, they've got quotes coming in, they're in process of actually getting that established. They've taken some actions. Let's see. Enter cost estimates for proposed capital repairs to buildings into the CIP tool. I don't think the listed,
We haven't.
Proposed
we have
repairs are
not
in
put
there
the-
yet,
we have
right?
Not put the actual expenses yet. Well, all we've done to this point is try to determine an appropriation amount.
in a grand total
A grand
appropriation,
total
yeah.
appropriation.
This was to list the actual repairs, so
Right.
that one's still open,
Yeah.
okay. The next one.
That might
was-
change depending on surprises.
Yeah, I know, there's always surprises. The next one is Bob was going to explore the possibility of federal infrastructure grant money to rebuild approximately 50 drainage culverts under Goose Pond Road. Do we know if he's, got
I know
anything on
he
that?
looked into it and we're not finding much luck with that to this point.
we'll call it open for right now. We'll ask
Yeah.
about it again next time. Maybe at some point we'll have to give up on that, but
Yeah, I'm
But
not optimistic.
didn't want to forget
I'm
to
not,
try.
I'm not optimistic for that type of work because generally the only time you get payment on that is FEMA storm repair or or storm mitigation.
And the question will be, because one of the things we're working on right now is getting an engineer to give us a preliminary evaluation of like Goose Pond Road, which has like the 30 culverts that are gonna need to be replaced. We know they're gonna have to be permitted as storms, and the question is, will any of them meet mitigation, and then will we?
That's
be
what I
able
was
to
wondering.
trust-
They
That's-
might,
Will we
they might
be
fit
able
the
to get
mitigation
there?
category.
We're gonna have to identify and see how undersized they are, and then talk to New Hampshire Homeland. So that'll be a process
Do
that
you-
we're gonna assume we're not gonna get any, we're gonna keep working.
Oh,
on
yeah,
that.
we have to assume we're not.
Does Canaan currently have a 10-year flood mitigation plan on file with DES?
My understanding is, I think we did one, but I have not confirmed that it's on file.
Because we will have to verify that we have a 10-year plan on file before we can look at anything,
Right.
any mitigation funds
Right.
being available within that 10-year span.
Is that hazard mitigation invoices we have?
Well, that's hazard mitigation is part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
hazard mitigation is, what are your identified risks? My concern is, I haven't looked through that document, but I can't imagine they picked Goose Pond culverts as one of them.
No, but see what the towns have to maintain a 10-year flood mitigation risk and plan 10-year increments. As long as you have that 10-year plan on file, then you can look at other smaller plans within that, but you have to maintain a 10-year plan to get a 2-year, 3-year
Yeah.
plan on
Yeah,
file.
sounds typical, yeah, yep. Okay, we only have 3 left to strike, hit here. The next one says, bring a multi-year financial plan for road reconstruction to the select board with a proposal for a long-term bond to fund major work needed in the early years. A warrant article to be drafted for the town meeting if the select board agrees, and cost estimates to be populated in the planning tool. So tell us a little bit
Well,
about
we
that whole
actually had
thing.
the
Yeah,
conversation
we
with the select
discussed
board.
last night as a board. The only question out of it was Sadie, you and I, if we felt it was necessary, and it's open for thought right now. We
Right.
didn't want to make
So
any
it's
action,
under
but
review.
it's under review
Under
right
review, let's call
now.
it that. Let's call it, it's under
Because
review.
our
yeah.
discussion was because of the amount of engineering costs and everything, was to look at Goose Pond Road as a,
Well, still look at the trio,
yeah,
the trio of roads, the River Road, Switch, and the other.
Those
because it's
3
like
big
$1.5
ones.
million.
In the
Because
first,
the
yeah,
issue is,
yeah.
one of the things we identified with Bob was there's like 4 other roads that are just slightly behind where
Yeah,
those are.
yeah,
So if we
that's
don't
priced.
get the first group off and only maybe pay 150,000 a year, we're gonna keep falling behind, because it'll take us
Yeah.
at least 4 years
oh,
to
yes.
get those 3 roads done.
Yeah,
without-
yeah, without,
So then-
without some sort
so
of
then
bonding.
We're gonna be out 8,
Got it.
9 years before we get to some of these others, which is where the issue's gonna become, we're
Then
just
they get
dragging them
worse.
all. So I
Okay,
think there's,
Because right off the top of my head, because we've got Switch Road and River Road that we just talked about, at
Yeah.
least getting ground. We got Goose Pond Road from the dam up.
Right.
But then we're also looking Blackwater Road and Gristmill Hill are both severely,
yeah, yeah.
and I think they were saying Roberts is starting to deteriorate pretty quickly. too.
Yeah,
And
because-
there's
Oh,
two
really?
others, because everybody's moved from Switch to Roberts.
Switch to Roberts, okay,
Yeah.
so it's getting more
But
traffic, more use.
Roberts Road, here again, received a Band-Aid.
Right,
If you pave and cover up all the problems, you don't see them for 5 years.
and then
Yeah.
the issue
But
is.
then they all
it's-
come through, yeah,
They're
okay.
still there, right?
They're still there.
Yeah,
See, one of the things that people don't understand with asphalt, you get what's called imprint. If you have a 2-inch wide crevice running diagonal across the paved road, and if you do not repair that before you pave, when you put down the new pavement, it's gone. But within a few months, your cars, because asphalt,
back.
especially for the first couple of years, is still a pliable surface.
Mhm.
And what will happen, just your cars traveling, the compaction that you gain pushes into that crevice, and it, what you call imprinting, you will see where that crevice is in the new pavement. And once frost starts working, there's your fracture
Forget
line.
it.
And the other thing that happens is if you have like a dip in the road, then you fill that dip. And then you're putting pressure in all different directions.
Yep.
When you're driving on it. So all you're doing is you're just prolonging the problem of the movement of the subbase.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. The next one is, so that we're gonna call that under review. And I'm glad to hear it's under review. And the next one is, can the town borrow from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank for road reconstruction? It's part of that same question, I
Yes.
guess. The answer is yes.
Yes, and the last 10 million, I mean, if it was a 10-year note. 3.19, I think, was the issuance in July.
So it would be better to borrow from them than a bank or
Oh,
whatever.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I
Good.
mean, the reality is, if we are in the next, like in the summer bond pool,
Yeah.
we might be seeing under 3. And it's like, that's like free money virtually when you're really looking at planning.
Good.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if we can get it for even 3 to 4%, and you have 5% inflation,
Right.
you're making money.
Right, right.
On paper, you're making money with it.
I hope we're not still looking at 5% inflation, however. I think, maybe maybe it's a break-even
It depends on
situation,
that
around
trend right
3%
now. They're
maybe.
saying
Yeah.
That's gonna really.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know
That's
what's gonna happen
billions
there.
of dollars per day.
5 billion a day, I heard,
Yep.
yeah. Crazy. Now, the last one on the list that I had was, Chat, you're gonna draft warrant articles asking voters to authorize the select board as agents to expend capital reserve funds for heavy equipment categories.
Yes.
So you're gonna do that.
Yeah, I haven't started.
Not yet, so it's
Basically,
open.
You know, and.
That's
Carrie
fine.
Ann has a list, she started of all the warrant.
Not
articles.
critical right now. Just a tickler.
Yeah, we're just not.
Fine.
We haven't even.
We'll call that
started the
open, no
deadline
big
for
deal.
the thing.
Yeah, no problem. You don't really need to be serious about that till what, early December,
Well,
right?
I want to be serious about it later this month, just so.
Okay,
We
fine.
start to look at the whole package and see what it starts.
Whole
to look
package of
at.
warrant articles, yeah,
Because
yeah,
it- In that process, we have to
Right.
do the review of which warrant articles that
Right.
are
right,
in existence.
Right.
May need to be updated.
good.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
So we got a lot of.
Yeah, whether we're just adjusting existing
Right,
or if we're creating new ones.
right.
And we might have to have some warrant articles to abolish some, depending on how they're written.
Right, right. Okay, so just have a couple of procedural comments. We just went through this list that Tom and I gathered by looking through minutes from August through the last meeting. And we found some things that we said, oh, we should do this, we should do this. To write it once in the minutes and let it go away, forget about it. So my point, I'm just trying to describe, so the point here is to maintain a list of what's left to do, what we decide here needs to be done. So, and my last comment in regard is, so as we meet this week, next week, whatever, if you see something, any of you on the committee, or you, Carrie Ann, for that matter, I mean, as on the committee, including you and Jack, you see something that we want to make sure we remember to do, tell us. Tom will be our scribe and he'll add it to the list. And we'll use that. And as soon as something is done, we're just gonna wipe it off. It's gonna be gone. So our goal is to get this list down to 0 by the end of the month, pretty much. Except for 1 or 2 items that might go into December, but
Right.
most of these should be done.
Yeah,
I wanna-
because there's a couple of these items, we won't have numbers by the end of the month.
Okay. That's true. I understand.
Yeah.
And there's another one, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Point is, we want to get these items off the list as soon as we can. But if you see anything new that comes up as we review our next couple of categories, please speak up. And with that, what?
I have a question on the roadside more. I thought the highway had two.
They have to, the idea was rent. We've never rented. We bought them in the past. Chet wanted to look into
They're not
renting.
new,
Mhm.
And the question is, what are we gonna do in the future? And the most likely scenario is the equivalent of renting is leasing, because you're gonna,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to replace them every 7 or 8 years, and if you lease them, you can just make that this is what it costs us to have a roadside mower, because they don't last.
The key was rent instead of
Yeah.
buy.
Because one-
In the past, we
when you
bought them.
Put that weight on the one side of the frame, you're just
Yeah.
pulling on everything.
So
They're
what-
really, tractors aren't originally.
Well, it
designed for
depends
that.
on who is running it. You remember that.
Okay, so that was item 2 on the agenda. Item 3 is
Pick up a
to do
tire and have it hang on.
Item 3 is to do a follow-up review if we need, and we can just do a quickie. if we need to, for the capital plans on highway vehicles. We had said originally that we would do that because that's usually a long and expensive list.
And actually,
go ahead,
we
Jack.
haven't had any new, okay, other than the tweaking that we have listed that we want to do, like making some adjustments here and there. From a fund perspective, we don't have any changes proposed at this time to that line, to that section. I think we had a pretty comprehensive list, Guy had done it, and the list that was done last year. So I think right now, we're at a place where we're just in refinement mode. We have all of our replacement values set up. We have our, expected appropriation, and then that's what we're gonna ultimately be talking about the rest of this month is, okay, how does this make sense, and make sure that I'm just gonna do a double check with Bob and make sure that we're expending it at the right time, but we went through this pretty close.
Yeah, we've got a lot better handle.
So if I could summarize what you have in the plan right now.
Yeah.
Just what I'm hearing when you say is that we have two trucks, dump truck style trucks. That are going to arrive later, that are already ordered on a lease basis, correct?
Lease purchase.
Those will be arriving, fine. Then we plan to buy, in 2025. This says the GMC #2 crew cab pickup for around 85 grand, correct? And a loader for around 250 grand, right? Okay, and then the following year, it's a 10-wheel dump truck, probably 300 grand, and
That would be replacing.
the
Replacing a
roadside
six-wheeler.
mower replacement of some sort.
Yeah.
And let me see if there's anything else in 2026. That's the current CIP plan for for what's on order in the next 2 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I have one question on the equipment list here. And that's about the value listed on one of the items. It's, and maybe it didn't get updated after the last meeting, it's interesting. I'll get to it in a second, here it is. The 2015 International Truck number 5 is listed as 6-wheel dump. That one is the only one that doesn't carry, the only dump truck that doesn't carry a $300,000 price tag.
That's because
It's got a 200, is that correct?
It's a smaller truck.
It's the smaller truck.
Okay, so 200 is okay.
Yes.
Fine. That's it. That's it. That's all I wanted to know. Yep.
Freightliner, it's the step down, it's actually
All right,
the one of those trucks that by definition doesn't need a CDL
I was
driver.
gonna say
that's
that,
the one.
That's the one.
Yeah,
And
that's-
200's a reasonable price tag for us, fine, okay.
yeah, because that's one
Enough
that
said.
we can still get with air brakes and the plowing capabilities, but you can get it at a listed GVW that will come through on the tag 25,999. So it is by 1 pound.
By 1
It's
pound.
Sub CDL.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
26
But I got 2 of them in Enfield. I got 2 of them in Enfield that are actually 29,000 GVW trucks, but International put that GVW rating on the door so that they are classified as a sub CDL
Okay, good, fine.
truck,
Um,
because we're headed that way. I went by a town, I go by it most every Saturday, that there is not a 6-wheeler parked in the yard now. There's 2 of the Chevrolet International Hybrid
Mhm.
there that are sub CDL. There's 2 of them parked there now so that they don't have
How
to
many
have.
wheels?
It's their 6-wheeler
Oh,
truck.
okay, all right.
But it's your GVW
Got it,
rating.
got
They're
it.
just below those who are 22,000
I thought I heard you
GVW
start
truck.
out saying there were no 6-wheelers left, and I'm saying, okay.
No,
Those
of
are
the-
6-wheel.
There are no, I should say, there are no CDL class
Six-wheeler.
trucks left parked
That's
in
what-
the yard
Okay, got it, got it,
in Northeast Kingdom, Vermont.
right.
That's one of the things keeping Viking busy. They are actually gone to replacing some of the heavier duty trucks with 2 and 3 550, 600 class trucks because they cannot hire CDL licensed.
Oh,
Well, and I will say, to be honest with you, functionality wise, there's no reason to have a 6-wheel CDL truck
gotcha.
because it
Understood.
doesn't carry enough. It
Fine,
doesn't
it's fine,
do
yeah.
anything.
It's halfway.
Yeah, it's good to have one lighter duty truck than the
Yeah,
other
there's always-
10-wheelers, yeah,
there's
yeah.
smaller
That's good, absolutely.
Like we always said
All right.
about a 1 ton, too big to be a pickup, not big enough to be a truck.
There you go, there you go. Okay, next item on the agenda is library.
Libraries, given what
Is,
we've done.
library's not even on the plan yet anywhere, is it?
Well, it's just under the buildings.
Is it?
It should
It's
be
under
the
buildings?
building.
Oh, okay.
Under
It's,
gov-
I didn't
library,
see it,
government
maybe I missed
buildings.
it.
2027, we
Yep.
have nothing planned for the next couple of years.
Right, nothing in the
this
short term.
one.
Oh, there it is, library. Oh, it says library / town office renovate office.
Right.
And we have 400,000 next to that. Who knows? That's
Yeah,
a,
it's just the-
placeholder.
the whole- yeah. That
but
was
there's
the plan
nothing
to rebuild it.
specific to library.
No, right now, I would argue that the library needs a higher level evaluation for several things. One is the ADA accessibility and the issues with our elevator and that entrance. The other is the third floor. The library has eyes on being able to use that. I've heard that the floor loading is not capable of withstanding library type stuff. Roof condition, there's
Well, they
things like
could-
that we need to evaluate.
Third floor could become their computer room,
Well, these are.
so
all-
you don't have books stacked up there.
Well, these are all, we actually have to create a real plan for what.
Yeah,
what
but
we
no,
can
but
do.
seriously, that could be,
That's one possible use, yeah.
they
yeah,
could,
yeah.
the floor loading was set up for the second floor for books.
Right.
But they could use the third floor to move up their audio, visual and computer.
And
Lighter
the
weight
one
stuff,
item-
yeah, yeah.
The one item that we have identified to a degree, but not like financially yet, is the windows. Even though some of them were replaced, the way they were done.
They're
we're
storm
gonna have to
windows.
Start a replacement program. for
Really?
Some of those
Wow.
windows.
Yeah, some of those were just storm windows put on, if I
Yeah,
remember
it's
right.
Oh,
just-
really?
Yeah, when they started.
Storm
painting and
window
taking this
over
stuff
the
apart,
existing
there was
window?
All kinds of issues
Yeah.
with the windows,
Yeah.
so we need to develop a plan going forward for the windows, but we're not.
Building
there
needs
yet.
further evaluation. We're not there yet.
That's
Okay,
correct.
got it. You mentioned ADA accessible. Is it ADA accessible now? The
Yes.
first floor?
Yes,
Okay, good.
because it has the elevator lift on the
And-
one end, but there's all kinds of weird access issues
Yeah,
inside with.
yeah, I
that,
know.
and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just-
yeah, I know.
The
Okay.
elevator meets the credentials, the rooms that you're going into, the doorways
do not
don't.
necessarily.
That's
There's a
interesting.
lot of little odds and ends we
Okay.
need to develop a plan for.
And then that brings us to bridges.
Bridges.
What do you have on bridges?
What I have
Yeah.
on bridges is, well, first of all, everybody is aware of the 3 bridges we have proposed, which is the Transfer Station Road Bridge, Gristmill Road Bridge, and Potato Road Bridge.
Correct.
And I put the valuations in them based on our most recent review, which is 5.5 million for Gristmill Hill.
Where do we see that, please? I didn't
okay,
see the numbers this morning. I was looking.
It should be
maybe-
on that sheet, right?
Oh, 5.5 million is the estimated, sorry, I was looking out here
Okay.
in the expenditures area.
No.
All right.
The only thing I stuck in the
Gotcha.
expenditures area so far, because the only thing that actually affects the town is the Transfer Station Road Bridge,
Okay,
because
got it.
it's around $1.4 million, $1.5 million. Right now, I just stuck $1.5 million
Yep.
in there
Yeah.
and put $1.3 million in as the, what we were getting in a grant, because we have to come up with like 200 to 250,000.
All right.
27.
Good.
That's what that.
I see it. I see that.
So.
I'm sorry to have stopped you. I wasn't following when you said 5.5 million. Now I see it's in the estimated replacement column.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
and The Goose Pond Bridge and the River Road bridges that were done, one was, let's see, River, and this, I gave you this sheet, this was from the engineer.
Yeah,
Basically, it says River Road Bridge was 400,000, and it was 100% funded before, and Goose Pond Bridge was 492,000, at 80% funded. These were all done in like the last 10 years,
right.
so we need to be looking at that. In the second sheet,
How do you mean looking at that?
well,
What does that
looking at,
mean?
well, we haven't put together. First of all, we're supposed to be funding replacement at some point, but every 10 or 20 years, there's work we're supposed to have done
Oh,
and.
maintenance where,
Yes,
Well.
required
capital-
maintenance.
Well,
Keep-
there's required maintenance, like the washing is a maintenance item. They just go.
Okay,
Mill and overlay is a whole nother animal.
heavy duty maintenance.
Right. Which
You
is
have-
Capital
right.
improvement.
yeah, you have with rehabilitation.
I understand, to extend the life to keep
Right.
it, yeah,
Schedule-
all right.
The schedule shows right now that we were supposed to mill and overlay the River Road Bridge in 2018. And the Goose Pond Bridge in 2024.
Okay.
Which we haven't done any of that to
No.
this point.
Right,
So, Chris asked if I would like him to forecast what we should be doing for the bridge management plan, and he's gonna be forwarding me a new plan. to say, here's how we have to start expending. Because like, it's a just about $11 million worth of bridges, those 5 bridges.
Yep.
And the estimated appropriation is about 94,000. Because the 2 most expensive bridges have 100 to 120 year lifespan, so that's what you use for that. The other ones we're using 80. But then we have to make sure that while we're putting that 94,000 in there, that we're gonna be able to cover the bridge maintenance programs, because the Gristmill Hill one, that's 100 and something foot span. That's gonna be like a deck rebuild almost every 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so these are all, I wanna make sure that the
Well-
expenditures all align, but right now, for the purposes of conversation, we have the $94,000 appropriations, what the system says.
It's what the system recommends we appropriate
Right.
each year.
So we gotta see how that works, and that 200,000 that goes in 27. Okay, is, we still have enough money if we don't, but I gotta look at, we have 403,000. If we do that, we might be able to reduce it for a couple of years if we had to, like to get to the
Or reduce
94,000.
the annual appropriation, you're
Right.
saying. Yeah, perhaps.
But I gotta just make sure that it works with getting the 2 existing bridges up to speed, and then there's the bridge work we have to do with Gristmill related to the temporary bridge and everything else we have to do while that's all happening.
So, right now in this sheet, I see what you said about the transfer station road, a cost of $1.5 million, but a grant of $1.3 million. Approximate is all right, so which would mean that it will, the town will be footing the bill for about $200K, which is very reasonable. Why wouldn't we do the same thing? In other words, here's the cost, here's the grants for the other 2
We are
bridges.
going to.
That's what I was wondering. We've done that in the past. We've shown the
No,
cost of the
it's
bridge.
going to, no, both of those, basically in 27, the $5.5 million bridge will be there, and a $5.5 million grant.
Right,
And then the other one will be the $2.9 million.
Right, right, right.
$2.9 million
Okay.
grant in 26.
so the reason I'm gonna focus on that for a second is I think because we want to make sure it's on here so that when we publish this report to the voters, they'll see those 3 bridges in the cost. So I'm gonna ask Tom to add an item to the action item list, which is what you just said you're gonna do.
Right. The only reason I
The
didn't
item-
do it for today, because I could have done it in 2
Fine.
seconds. The only reason I didn't do it is I wanted to identify the 200,000.
Right,
Because for the purposes of this committee, the 200,000 is what matters the most.
I hear you.
That we
You
have to come up
agree,
with.
agreed. So I have no
Good.
problem. And just so that we don't forget about it, because I
Yeah.
consider it important to the voters.
No, it is absolutely.
If I could ask Tom to just add an item to the list, which is to add the Potato Road and Gristmill Hill Road costs and
Yeah, the
costs
grant
and grants.
appropriation And the costs to
to the tool.
Okay, you were both talking. at the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
time?
Let's not do that.
Didn't
So
know which one to listen to.
So
So let
time out.
one of you.
I'm asking Tom to add it. So let me add Potato Road and Gristmill Hill Road bridges,
To.
bridge costs and grants to the planning tool. That's what I was trying to say. Okay.
Got it.
Okay, I didn't say you needed it for today, but I think we want to be sure we don't forget to put it in the tool.
Left it out simply because
Yeah,
that was
right,
one of the focus
right.
on the short.
Understand.
See, at this point in time, transfer station bridge is the only one that the town will have an outstanding
I
debt.
understand that.
Yeah,
That's good. That's
appropriate
great.
for.
That's, that's
Yeah.
great news.
Oh, yeah.
In
it's-
fact, that's one reason I want to get it in there, is I
Yeah.
want the voters to see.
The one thing that I want to make sure that we're really trying to make sure the public is aware of is, one of the reasons the way the state's doing this is, we're gonna help you do this, but you need to start funding it properly from here out.
By the way, I heard you say that earlier as well. Are you saying that the state has the intention to eventually stop funding
Well, what they
the
wanna do is
replacement of
stop
bridges?
funding. What they don't wanna create is a situation where, let's assume a bridge was gonna last 20 years. We're gonna go build a 20-year bridge. 20 years from now, you're coming back to the state for them to rebuild the same bridge versus this was your bridge. We took care of it once. You need to
Yeah.
start maintaining it.
They're expecting the towns to start
To start.
planning to replace their own bridges.
Don't expect that you're gonna get another one.
That's very important. I never heard that before.
What's happening, what we just talked about on those two bridges, one's supposed to have been milled and checked the deck in 2018. This is, and it's not just Canaan, this is notorious for towns.
Sure.
The state bridge program comes in and puts that bridge in. It's paved over. No, I drove over it every day and didn't see anything wrong, where you might have 3 inches of crumbled concrete under there that's just
Oh.
trapped. You have to strip mill that off, clean that concrete to see if any cracks have allowed any salt brine down to start. You have to
Every so
patch
many years, you
those,
gotta do that.
Yeah.
Okay, got it? Got it.
remembrane,
Right, right.
repave. Well, that's what hasn't been getting. That's why the dock on gristmill is only at 60%, because that was never
We're done.
done.
And
Right.
you can tell by when HEB was doing their presentations, they're making sure that here's the expected maintenance costs.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of, when you sign this agreement, we're signing on that we're supposed to do this.
Mm,
So at the end,
yeah,
we have
yeah,
kept that bridge
yeah,
up.
makes good
to
sense.
get the full
Kinda like
payoff.
keeping
And
the
this is
roof on
one
a
of the,
building.
this is one of the primary reasons you're seeing all these open concrete decks in New Hampshire now, rather than paved over. They just do a milled surface, so you can do a visual inspection of that.
So is that better?
Concrete.
Is that what is that the new standard? Do a concrete
It's
surface?
kind of a new standard. I don't agree with just open concrete, because open concrete and salt is
Oh.
is
Salt
water and
packed
is
concrete.
just like
Yeah,
water and oil.
yeah.
So your salt is one of the biggest killers of concrete out
Yes,
there.
I've seen that, yeah.
But at least this way with the open concrete, they can wash them. Every time it rains, it helps wash them. And it gives you, you've got a milled surface.
You could do a visual
You
detection
can
if it's
actually
breaking
do a
down.
visual inspection.
Yeah.
Without having to mill asphalt off
Got
to
it,
get
got it.
there, and then the cost of remembrane and repave.
Okay, good.
That's why you see, the state out sometimes with a tractor trailer load of water and
Ah.
they do the wash the bridges down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get
Most
salt
every
off.
bridge in
Good,
the
yeah,
state
yeah.
gets washed every other year. And you'll even see them on the interstate. All these state bridges, every couple of years,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
have one lane and
Yeah.
that's what they're doing. They're washing them
How
off.
about that?
And then
Interesting.
they have we used to use, it was a linseed oil base. They've got some new products now, but you wash them. And then all of the sides, you can't do the surface, but all your abutments and underneath you spray with, used to be a linseed, but you spray with a treatment that's a neutralizer to any of the salt that is, so it soaks in and neutralizes any salt that's
It's
left
the
in
car
there.
dealers selling them undercoating.
Yeah.
Right?
Essentially, yes.
Undercoating the bridges.
So while we're sitting here.
Yeah.
I got my legal opinion, and we have to rewrite that article.
The one about police cruisers? Yeah.
So we're gonna be looking at a couple of things.
Sure.
Because he read it right off. The law requires that the establishment of a capital reserve fund should distinctly provide the purposes for which the reserve is to be established. The subject warrant article merely provided that this appropriation for a new capital reserve fund for police cruisers. This language does not set out parameters.
Right,
for which
agreed,
the
I
money-
understand.
so
It's too loose. You knew that right off the bat. You
But-
get, yeah.
But you get, it's a much easier argument when you send that to the select board. and
Oh, yeah.
Public asks. why
The
it's
lawyer
doing
said,
this, here you
yeah,
go.
there you go.
See, this has been
So-
my question right along. You have to set up a capital reserve and you have to spell how the money may be put in and withdrawn.
And what its purpose is.
Yeah.
He said, and what it's to be spent for.
Yes, but I'm saying what's happening on some of these, like that one, to start a capital reserve fund for purchase of police cruisers. Okay. Maybe that'll give you approval and DRA's eye to put money in it, but there's absolutely nothing spelled out.
Right,
Who can spend it
right.
or
Agreed.
who's
agreed.
authorized to withdraw it?
And you're gonna cover that agents to expend anyway.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this-
right,
this
right.
just
Okay, good.
becomes we're gonna have a significant number, a little grouping of warrant articles that are just corrective.
Right.
Yeah.
This year.
So before we get too far afield, back to the CIP
Yeah,
plan itself.
That's all I have.
So-
on those bridges at this
Got
point.
it?
I can add those
And that's
two
good.
pieces.
Add those two bridges. We already have that. Yeah, you can add those. There was I know, before the meeting started, let me say it aloud now. You were, got the Kubota.
Yeah, I
It's
got
not a
couple of
Kubota. What is it? What was the real brand?
Like the mini excavator.
No, there was
Hitachi,
Hitachi. Is that what it was?
yes,
You were gonna change Kubota to Hitachi. So why don't you do that while we're thinking about it?
same country, different area.
Yeah, yeah. We had said that last time, and somehow I thought it got changed, but it didn't.
Yep.
All right.
And they just separated again, but for a
So
number
you're
of
doing
years,
it on
John Deere
domestic, right?
Corporation owned Hitachi.
Correct.
I gotta do it in my, my worksheet.
Now. We've gone through each of the categories one by one. In many cases, you've told us things you were working on. But it seems to me that a lot of numbers aren't in the tool yet, right? Overall, general basis, there are a lot of numbers that still need to be filled
Yeah,
in,
no,
right?
we're still filling things in.
So we need to be able to, the question I have in my mind is, how soon can we look at the actual total with all the numbers in place
December 4th.
across the bottom? That'll be
To be
too
honest
late.
with you,
That'll be too, that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah.
What I really.
That's what we need to talk
at
about,
This
yeah.
time is I need like a week in between where I can work on.
Right.
That stuff filling work, because once Monday comes around, because I still have a budget committee meeting tomorrow night.
Right,
Once Monday comes around, I have like 2 days to get ready for Wednesday.
yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to do all the background stuff, so. I'm gonna need a week in between one of these meetings.
Well,
Get caught
what
up.
I'm wondering is, what about the week between now and next meeting? Isn't there a week, this week there, right?
No, I need a work week, a
Are,
five-way.
are you suggesting we cancel next week's meeting?
No.
No,
I'm
okay.
saying, I'm okay if you have next week's meeting, but if we have next week's meeting, then we might wanna postpone the next one and skip one to give me two, to give you a pretty
Well,
close to. final
actually,
document.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Next week's meeting, we said we would talk transfer station and water and sewer, so we gotta do that anyway.
We'll do
Fine,
that anyway, but
fine,
I'm saying the
fine.
next one, we may wanna skip so that we go to the following one, which would I can give you a much more.
We'll run out of town, but that's my concern. We'd run out of time if we do that. If we skip a meeting, it'll be getting late October. By the way, back to Scott, we need to finish
I know.
this tool by the end of this month. No later than the end of October,
Is that a?
because that's the only way we get on the timeline. Let me finish. That's the only way we get on the timeline for somebody, usually me, to write up the full report of the committee's activities,
Mhm.
an annual report, and bring it to the planning board, which is required by our original warrant article. And then from the planning board, then to the budget committee in order to get it approved and put forward. So the only way we can make that timeline is if we finish these numbers and look at the bottom line and are ready to accept the plan by the end of October. Today's the 2nd. So that's why I'm concerned,
Well, no, I'm saying like, because I think today's the 2nd, so the 9th, we have a meeting scheduled.
right?
The 16th, if we didn't have the 16th, between the 23rd and the 30th, we'd be done.
Okay, I was hoping we would hold the 30th in our back pocket
Well, what
for
I'm
worst
saying
case
is
scenario, but
I'm okay with leaving it'll be segments that'll be getting done. We'll end
Right.
up having the meeting without a full
Yeah.
paper.
so
I
we
don't
can
need it-
certainly decide
Final
that next
meeting we
week.
should
Yes,
have.
next week.
Let's
I'm
decide
putting out
next
for
week.
your conversation
Yep,
To say, okay, in order to do cleanup, I need a couple of days that this is all
I
I
hear you.
work on, and I
Right.
gotta kind of hide from everything else. And right
so
now,
whether
I'm
we
unable
meet
to
or
do
not,
that.
whatever, we can decide next week, but
Swap
I,
offices with Carrie Ann.
the bottom line is, do it.
More people buy the-
If I could call your attention to the agenda for a second,
Yeah.
maybe it'll get my point across. I wrote October 16th, first pass of the aggregate plan. If you could do everything possible to try to have all your numbers in by the 16th, so we can, as a group, do a first pass review, because inevitably there'll be some things you might change.
Right.
After that. So we need to try to by the 16th be ready, and then my hope was,
See, the problem, the
Go ahead.
difficulty I have with that particular meeting. Is that sandwiched between a select board meeting and a budget committee meeting. So I
Okay.
end up with a 3-day.
that'd be a tough one for you, yeah.
That's just like,
Yeah.
I lose that week,
Gotcha.
right now, when I have 3 meetings in the middle,
Right,
that's like,
right.
that's all I'm doing is meetings.
Well, next week, which is
And
the
the
9th, And
ninth
we,
is not a problem. That
we
was the
might-
planned one.
next week, which is the 9th, we might decide not at the 16th meeting, but if we do, I'm just gonna say to everyone, be careful, we're at a little bit at risk.
Right.
Because we really have to complete this by the end of the month.
Because the 16th, the select board is also gonna be handling policy reviews again.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I want you to keep in mind is, having gone through this process with you, I think we're all kind of on the same page with all these things. At the end of the day, what we're gonna be doing on the 23rd, if we skip the 16th, is looking at the overall picture and then deciding, okay, well, this year we're gonna have to take out a little
There
bit
you
of
go.
appropriation. And
That's-
that's really what we're gonna be doing.
That's where I'm going. We're all on the same page,
Right.
category by category.
Right.
Police cruisers, fire trucks.
Yeah.
But when you put it all together and add it all up,
Well,
if
that's.
it was $50 million bill, we got some work to do. We say,
Yeah.
oh
The
shit,
thing
you
is,
know?
if
We need
that-
time to do that.
Well, and that's, the issue is if we've added like $250,000 to say for the overall capital plan. Because I'm giving you what the end product needs to be, not how we get there. So basically, all we have to do is then say, well, we're gonna have to only add $100,000 this year or $50,000. And then say, how does that affect anything else? And we figure out where we can make that adjustment.
I'm
The
saying
end-
we'll need time to make those kinds of evaluations and adjustments and what if this and how does it fit?
I'll be bringing you proposals and options.
There you go. That's kind of.
Because
what-
the end product is a matter is just to make sure that 3 years from now, we're not $200,000 in the red.
I understand.
It's just,
Right.
even if 3 years from now, that bottom dollar with what we've got planned is zero, that's good, because we're not in the red.
Right.
We just need to keep it
Yep.
on that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Nothing against that. But in the other side of it is, there might be some items in the plan that if the cost is much too high in the first few years and we don't have the cash, if rental's not an option, and there's one example in my mind, we might decide to delay or not authorize, for example, maybe the stretchers, there's $125,000 in next year for 2 new stretchers. Well, maybe we end up, if the price tag overall is just way too big, maybe that's one spot we have to delay those 2 stretchers, put one the year after and one the year after, who knows?
That's what I'm
Get
saying,
that.
even,
Right.
even.
We need
if
time to
have-
do those kind of
Because
things.
the other thing that comes into this is the conversation, like as it was to replace the one fire truck. Like, okay, do we have to go to a leasing program for that fire truck?
Yeah.
And these are the
Well,
yeah.
decisions.
now
to
that's the
make.
other one, is the fire department would like a ladder truck,
Right,
1.2 million. We kind of went, oh, okay, fine. That was pretty quick approval of a very large amount of money.
well, the thing is, we're gonna
So-
spend 900,000 for the one without the ladder.
Agreed.
And it's like, okay, it makes the most sense. The question is, how are we going to go about the acquisition? And I think realistically, the only real option is another lease.
Maybe it is. I
For that-
would tend
for
to
that
agree
piece
with
until
that
we
piece,
get- until we
because it's
get
such a high
to the
cost.
next level.
Yeah, I
Well, with
Yeah.
that higher cost, we're not gonna be able to appropriate that much money in the next 7 or 8 years.
And-
So you're gonna have to be looking at the lease purchase side
Exactly.
of it.
Exactly.
Because
I
for
agree.
20 years is basically the cycle of
So-
all the fire trucks, and you have like $4 million worth of equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So-
It's
And
like,
we've got-
There's no way to get around
We've
it,
Overall,
got one
folks-
that was supposed to have been replaced, what, 2017?
something like that.
That's
yeah.
still in service.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna say that some of these trucks aren't. What's happened is your state has mandated in testing and all that these trucks can only be of a certain age if they are primary. It doesn't matter how good a shape they are.
Oh,
They can
really?
have 0 miles on them. You are only allowed.
that
I've got
right? I
I've
never
got a
heard that
truck up
before.
at the house that I bought
Yeah.
that was a fire tanker originally.
Yeah.
The state forced it out of service because of its age.
Really?
And it
I
had,
never heard the state.
and it
that-
had
that does
20,000,
that.
it
In
had
the years I've been doing
20,000
this.
miles on it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's basically.
I
it's-
understand. I hear
it's-
ya.
Well, just like.
I
the
never heard
tires.
that before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tires on a fire truck, 7 years, don't care. if-
They don't care. Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
Worn or
matter what
not,
they
doesn't
do.
matter. Replace them. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got you. I
yeah.
got you.
The only good thing is most of the time, if you buy the right truck, you can use them in your truck.
Right. Well, permit me to try to summarize.
Enfield, that last truck they sold through .govs. I want to say that was 80s, 87, something like that, and sold that about 5 years ago. It still had all the original tires on that truck.
Yeah.
Which one was that stuff?
Enfield Centers,
Oh.
the old truck 3.
Right.
Yeah, that still had
The original
the
tires.
original tires on that truck.
30-year-old tires almost.
Catch up with them for a while, but they're paying attention now.
That truck
Yeah,
was
yeah,
sold
yeah.
and went to Western Virginia,
Same with Virginia.
and the guy drove it and never had a flat.
Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Anyway.
No.
In an emergency situation.
I'd like
you
to
can't-
summarize. My only point there is I've seen these plans coming together in the past, and once you get all the numbers, and I mean all the numbers into the spreadsheet, and you add them all up, you look at the bottom line, you say, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Or you say, oh, next year's okay, and the year after that's okay, but 3 years from now, we got this big problem. So you start looking at adjusting things. You start looking at things that we can't afford to buy, or that we have to delay or lease or whatever. My point is, all that takes time. And if we wait till October 23rd to start doing that, we will not make it. Trust me.
The only issue becomes, if by the 16th, I can't have you the complete picture.
There you go.
Then you can't do the.
That's
add
all
and
I was
subtract.
asking is,
That's the question.
by the 16th, can you possibly try to get the complete
I
picture?
can try.
Everything
I'm
in,
not
do your best.
optimistic.
The
That-
good news
That's
is,
a bad week.
I hear
the
you.
good news, you don't have any weddings between now and
No,
then.
that's a good part. The issue really is just having a
Yeah.
few days that we can really just finalize the documents.
Right. And by the way, when you get to the point where you believe all the numbers are in there, email it to us.
Right.
And we'll dig in and start looking at it. Even, we don't have to wait for a meeting to be the first time to see it, yeah.
When I have the document.
As soon as
ready to
you
go,
think you have pretty much everything, all the inputs,
Yeah.
send it out to us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me see, let's go back to the agenda. So right now, we're gonna meet on the 9th. We'll decide whether or not the 16th is necessary or shortened or whatever. And the 23rd at least. I'm holding the 30th in my pocket for a worst case scenario if we absolutely have to, right? I'm sorry, we have it on the calendar, right, Monica, and you've reserved the room. So right now it would be the 23rd and the 30th, but hopefully we can finish before then. Next week is transfer station and water and sewer. And that's it. Is there any other business from anyone? If not, then.
I move we adjourn.
I'll
Sorry,
second.
did I take your?
No, you didn't.
No, that's
No, you
perfect.
didn't.
That was perfect. You moved and Scott seconded. We are adjourned.